Terminator 3. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to my Terminator 3 review. I've reviewed 1 and 2, and now it's time to go over 3, the underappreciated sequel, because the first 2 are so amazing that everyone just looks past the rest. But this is a great sequel, and it's about, once again, the Terminator coming back to save John Connor and his soon-to-be wife in the future, Catherine Brewster, and protect them from Judgment Day. So yeah, this movie gets hated on, and I think because of a couple of reasons, and they are my criticisms of the film, my dislikes, things I don't care for, and that is that this movie completely retcons number 2. In number 2, they save the world. Judgment Day is not going to happen. They stop Dyson or whatever that guy is. They blow up that factory. It's over. Happy ending. But in this one's like, it's still happening. You just prolong the inevitable, and Judgment Day is still coming. So it kind of like retcons part 2, just like Psycho 2 and 3. They kind of retcon each other. Terminator 2 and 3, they do the same thing. It just retcons that. It's like, nope, it's still happening. And then they do that cliche thing where it's like, oh, Linda Hamilton's character's dead because of cancer. And they say she died in 1997, which was the year Judgment Day was supposed to happen. And I'm not sure if Terminator 2 was supposed to take place in 97. So if that's true, did that mean that Sarah Connor had cancer that whole movie in part 2? I want to know, so let me know in the comments below, because I'm not going to research it. But this movie stars Nick Stahl, Arnold Schwarzenegger once again, Kristanna Loken. I think she was a Victoria's Secret model, and she's pretty beautiful. She is stunning. And Chris Hardwick, the comedian who got his own Comedy Central show for a little bit, he was in here. He was in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. He has a small role, and when I saw him, I was like, holy shit, that's Chris Hardwick, and he looked like he was a little overweight, so he looked different. But yeah, it was interesting to see him in here. Great movie. This movie does not get talked about enough, because like I said, everyone loves the first 2. That kind of like overshadows the rest of them, and no one really talks about them. But this is a good sequel. It's got a lot of the same stuff going for it. I feel like this is like the Child's Play 3 of this franchise, where it kind of like repeats moments from part 2. Because that's another criticism I have with this film. I was shrinking a little bit before this, so I might be stuttering. Okay, so this movie repeats a lot. Like, there's like moments in this movie where you're like, this feels like I've seen it before. Oh yeah, this is like that one scene in part 2. Oh, you know, this is just like that one scene. Like, it just kind of feels like it borrows a lot of moments from part 2. So it kind of feels like we've been there, done that. So I think that might be a criticism some people have of this film. It's like, it just feels like the same thing. You know, like, we gotta save this person. Arnold's back, and to prevent this once again, and this thing's happening again. The car chase, the Terminator lands on the car, it's attacking them. It just feels like a lot of the same stuff, all the same beats being repeated. So yeah, but still fun. Still fun. Another thing I kind of had a problem with was the tone is completely different in the first half of it. Like, especially like Arnold when he comes back and he goes to a gay bar. You compare that to part 2 where he goes to a biker bar and kicks ass. That's completely different, and it's kind of jarring when you go from 2 to 3. It's a complete shift in feel and tone. Like, badass Arnold to going to a gay bar or a women's night out bar where there's male strippers and he just takes the guy's phony star glasses. It's a little cheesy, so I can see that being a problem too. So yeah, I didn't care for that either. And there's all kinds of little moments and little one-liners. Catherine Brewster, like, just why don't you just die, bitch? And I think Catherine Brewster's another problem I have with this movie was, it's not that she's a bad actress. She's great. It's just that her character is annoying. The way they write her character, the character who just won't believe what she should be believing in by now. Like, she still doesn't get that Arnold's a protector of hers. Like, he's there to protect her. She has to, like, shoot him in the fucking face with a gun to realize he ain't human after all the other shit that she's seen him do. Really? It took you that much to understand? Like, come on. Just whatever. And then, like, even after that, she's still running out of the cemetery room. She's just a thorn in their side. She's just a problem. It's like a little kid they have to take care of. And she gets a little annoying in the first half. But in the second half, she realizes what's going on. She's She picks up the guns, she starts fighting back, she becomes more badass. But that first half, her character's a little annoying to me. So, yeah, I can see people not liking her character either. And there's just little dumb things and conveniences where it's like, really? So, John Connor bumps into Kate, and they establish he's been on the run for years since the last movie. For over 10 years, he's been on the run, but he's still in California. He's not very good at running. He's not traveling that far. He bumps into Kate. What a coincidence. Arnold just arrives right when it's convenient and somehow doesn't run Kate's ass over when that car, he's in a truck and just runs over the TX, doesn't hit Kate. Really? Whatever. It's like, how did he know they were there? Seriously? And just the fact that John Connor's there too, the TX wasn't even after. There's conveniences here or there. The fact that Catherine Brewster, she doesn't even get hurt at all in that car chase, and she's in the back seat of that Paw Patrol car, just getting slammed around. There's cages, there's medical kits, there's shit flying everywhere. She's getting banged up left and right. There's 4 or 5 cop cars crashing into that car, spinning it around. It's crashing. There's no fucking way. And she just gets out of that car later on, completely able to walk, no bumps or bruises, no cut on her face, nothing. And that's where I have to call bullshit. Another little thing I just did not care for was the amount of emotion that they gave these robots. Even the Terminator, but Arnold and the TX. There's moments where, you know, they'll smile, or they'll snarl, or they'll growl, or they'll do something. And it's like, it doesn't feel like the Terminator that we know from the first 2 movies, or even the good Terminator versus bad Terminator. It doesn't matter. These Terminators shouldn't be having emotions, but they seem to. It just doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know. I wasn't crazy on that. There's a lot of moments where they're smiling or doing something, or where she licks the blood and it's like, oh, this is John Connor's blood. And it looks like she's flat out having an orgasm. Like, it's John Connor's blood. It's like, really? This TX is orgasming over John Connor's blood? And she has to, like, lick this blood to know whose blood it is, but this blood she had to just touch. I don't know. It's just odd. A dumb thing I want to point out is, where are the RV owners? They steal an RV and there's like a tent next to it, and we never know who it belongs to. Where the fuck are they? I guess they're just out jogging and camping or hiking. Just a little question I have. And how did the TX know that they were going to head to Catherine Brewster's dad's place of work? And how did she beat them there? There's no way. Another little convenience is the idea that the Terminator has 2 separate devices in his chest that just explode like nuclear Moab bombs. Why? That's a dangerous thing to have inside you. Just another coincidence. Another coincidence would be like, and it makes me laugh when I hear it, is when Catherine Brewster's running to the plane. She's like, come on, let's get in the plane that my brother taught me how to fly when I was 8. It's just like all this exposition being thrown out just to quickly explain how she knows how to fly. Like, this is the plane that I learned how to fly when I was a kid. Let's go fly it. Like, alright, I'm glad you told us. Now we know. We don't have to ask questions no more. You answered them. Also, the TX can replicate Kate. And I thought Arnold said something like, you know, he can replicate people he's touched or killed. That's how he's able... The TX is able to replicate Kate's fiance. And for some reason, in that cemetery scene, she just, like, reveals herself to be the Terminator very soon. Why she did that? Don't know. It's stupid. But how does she replicate Kate? She's never had any physical contact with her. So I guess maybe she can just replicate anybody. Who knows? Now, my one and only mixed aspect of this film is the whole evil Arnold thing, where he, like, gets, like, reprogrammed to be evil. I just feel like it's not necessary for the film, story-wise. It doesn't do anything for me. Like, I didn't see any necessity behind it. It's just, like, why? And it doesn't make sense either. Like, he's just, like, fighting it. It's like, either you're programmed to kill John Connor now, or you're not. So how he was able to just shut himself down and reboot himself, it's confusing to me, because, I don't know. Anybody have any explanation for why that scene makes sense and why it works? I just don't care for it. Now on to the positives. Kristanna Loken. She is beautiful, and I love that this movie decided to do the reverse of part 2, which was to make it a female Terminator. I like that. It definitely adds to some humor aspects of the film, where, like, she, like, makes her breasts get bigger so she can, like, trick the cop, and that goes for that tone like I was talking about earlier. This is more comedic in some spots, just weird spots here and there that are more comedic than usual. But yeah, I like that it's a female Terminator. I like that Arnold's still the good Terminator. And we got John Connor back. And it's 10 years later. This movie was made 10 years later. So, technically speaking, I think Edward Furlong could have reprised his role if he wasn't a burnout or a druggie. I think he was doing drugs at the time. I don't know what was happening. But they couldn't get Edward back. So, as a continuity guy, I'm not a fan of that. But I think Nick Stahl does a pretty good job. And I like his character in this movie. He doesn't, it's just all the stories he's been hearing all his life about how he's supposed to be this guy. He doesn't want to be that guy. I like his little moments in here. He puts the gun up to his head, like, fuck my destiny. And I just like, oh, another thing I forgot to point out in my dislikes was I was kind of bummed out that they completely reset the chemistry between Arnold and John Connor. Because that's what I loved about part 2 also, was just that little bond they had, and it's just completely reset, and it doesn't grow in this movie at all, because he's just mainly protecting Kate. So yeah, that was another negative I had. I was like, oh man, they just erase all that shit. But yeah, back to the positives. I like the little callbacks. There's not too many callbacks. There's little one-liners here and there. Hasta la vista is brought up again. So yeah, there's like little winks to the first couple of movies, little references here and there. It's not too much. It's not heavy-handed or anything. So yeah, love the little callbacks we got. And I like that this movie's ending is completely dark. It's the complete polar opposite of part 2. Judgment Day happens. Nukes go off. Everyone's dead except for John Connor and the few survivors who will band together to fight Skynet in the future in 2029 in part 4. I haven't seen Salvation in like over a decade. I think I've seen it once. So I'm very curious to go back and see that one again. So I like that the doctor from the first 2 movies is back, and he's like talking to Kate, like, you know, sometimes we see crazy things. He's like talking about how he basically just he's completely he's been trying to suppress his memories of what happened in part 2, and basically just kind of write it off as a hallucination, like it never happened. And then he sees Arnold and he just is like, fuck this, and he runs away from the cemetery. I love that scene. Also, are coffins bulletproof? Because apparently in this movie, coffins are bulletproof. I think John Connor should have been shot dead in that coffin. So, yeah, I want to point that out. And Xenadrin is no longer a drug, I believe. There's a big old Xenadrin semi-truck, and I think that company got sued because Xenadrin pills were poisoning people. Stupid to point out, but I'm going to point it out. So, yeah, this movie ages itself with Xenadrin. And also, I got to talk about the big 2 things. One, the car chase in this movie is amazing. They completely built this whole street just to destroy cars and buildings, and they were gonna completely cut one scene out of the budget. Like, for budget reasons, they wanted to save some money, but they added on to their budget for the scene. Arnold Schwarzenegger was basically saying, no, we should have this scene. He begged for it, and they did it. And it's the scene where Arnold's hanging onto the crane, and he's like crashing through the buildings. It's just all the glass windows and whatnot. It's an amazing scene. It's just, there's some CGI in here and there, but the CGI is not that bad in this movie. There's lots of great Stan Winston effects. That's another big thing that's great about this movie. You got Stan Winston from the first 2. He's back. The whole robots at the end, the look of the TX, the fist through that guy's chest. I love that scene. So gnarly. This movie earned its R rating. So yeah, I love the effects once again by Stan Winston. And that car chase is one of the best car chase sequences of all time. Easily. But yeah, overall, just a great movie. It's definitely got some callbacks, some references to the first 2. If you like part 2, I can't see why you would hate this one, unless you just love happy endings and dark, gloomy endings aren't your thing. But overall, still a great movie. It's a slight change of tone from the first 2, so expect that going in. But if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth checking out. So when it comes to Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, definitely check this one out and go out and buy it. And those are my thoughts on Terminator 3. What did you think of this wonderful movie? Is it your favorite? Where does it sit in your ranking? I'm going to be ranking these movies after I review all 6 of them. After I review Dark Fate coming out. I haven't seen any of the trailers yet, so I'm very looking forward to that movie. I'm looking forward to seeing Terminator Salvations once again, because I've only seen it once. I don't remember shit about it. I just remember it takes place in the future. So, looking forward to seeing that again, but thank you so much for joining me tonight. If you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button to show your support, and you can become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, I'll review this thing.